The weary traveler draws close to the end of the path.
We have never had it so good.
All of this just works.
We are selling tea to China.
You did not have to redeem this, ma'am.
Out with them, forget about them.
Your broadcast is very biased. You've written a lot of ridiculous articles, so I would encourage you to be more journalistic and have more integrity.
Socialism is when the government does stuff.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Longhouse. We have one of our trusty viewers here, Cyber Ninja Zero, already with the hello, with the good evening or the good morning, I guess depending on where you are tuning in from. Today we have, it initially was a bit of a grab bag of stuff from the news cycle and whatever passes by my Twitter feed these days. But it ended up maybe being a bit more coherent by the end when I sort of compiled everything. We're going to be talking a little bit about how you can turn your formerly alive grandma, to use the new speak, into an AI image on your phone. And we're going to talk, if we get the time, hopefully this is the major part, a little bit about a very interesting article I read in a magazine the other day about how our generation, meaning sort of millennials and Gen Z, tend to, I guess, become adults slower than our parents did. And I don't mean necessarily growing up as in the biological function, but the cultural function of becoming adults, and what that means for society. We also will briefly cover a Norwegian man being arrested for playing a suggestive, I think, anime game. I do have some sources saying that it wasn't just the anime game, it was also possession of underage photos, let's put it like that, or content. We'll get into that soon. So Bloody Path, how are you doing? It's been a week.
Yes.
I've barely had time to talk with you, honestly, since last stream.
Time flies. I feel like I blinked and then then we're doing the next episode, honestly. Maybe it's because of the day, the amount of light that you have is quite limited, but
sure.
Yeah, this time of the year, I feel like things are usually on rails. It's not a lot of active stuff, just trying to keep healthy. How's your health, by the way? Did you get any better?
Slightly. I have a bit of a cough, and sleep being disrupted sort of has a tendency to prolong the recovery time. But in general, I'm doing good. So yeah.
Well, yeah, it's good to hear. I mean, yeah, there is some interesting things in the news, but this show is kind of not the current thing show. But it's sort of like in the background of the current thing. So we can't guarantee that the current thing doesn't show up, but it's not a current thing.
No. It's not what everyone's raving about on Twitter, I guess is the. That being said, I have worked hard and tirelessly to sort of curate my Twitter feed away from a lot of the sloppa, as it were. Essentially what I've done is I've replaced it with a different kind of slop, which is just now people arguing about JavaScript frameworks, and technology and Linux distributions. So, I mean, it's better in one way, it's worse in another, right?
It's hard to imagine that even happens on X. I feel
It
like
actually
everybody's
does
just
to
doing the
quite an extent. A lot of
everybody's
anime
just doing
profile
culture
pictures
war
with
content.
a lot of anime profile pictures with very strong opinions on Linux. I used to go to like the technology board on 4chan for this stuff, but yeah, I get it on Twitter now.
Yeah, like everything else on 4chan, it has this sort of angry, angry rejected male energy stuff there, where you should only use Linux and program in C and teach yourself statistics or something. like, uh, I don't know.
I
It's
don't
yeah,
mind
you
programming in
can
C.
learn
I've
stuff, but
done it for like one or two things on my own, just to say that I can actually program in C in case I need it someday. I haven't yet, but it's very hard, and the programming chads are going to call me a soy dev for this, but it's very hard to be sort of like everything is like bring your own, right? Even the idea of a string is something you probably have to define at some point if you want to make something that people are actually going to use. Otherwise, you're just sort of putting libraries together, which works fine as well. But of course, if you need the performance, then you need the performance. I can't argue with that.
yeah, like the only application I've had with this stuff is like trying to program like stock trading bots
Yeah.
essentially, because like there are different ecosystems from this, right? But like you have one framework for retail traders, especially within like forex and precious metals. That's called like there's like the MetaTrader framework, and this is like 20 years old or something. So before
Right.
every programming language was just like a JavaScript dialect, then it was like a C dialect. So if you want to make a bot, you have to write it in like C++ 98 or something. It's like it's extremely gay, but it's everything else is so good with the tooling on that platform that it's like you have to kind of accept that if you're gonna try to write an algo, you have to do it in there.
Yeah.
So I didn't expect it, but there's a surprising amount of job listings and stuff online. This is not in the West, but in sort of at least not in the like Western Europe or these more modernized countries. But if you go into like South Africa, India, and stuff, you have people who are trying to make money with algorithms who are asking people to help them code these things for like nothing, essentially. But
Sure.
I
Yeah.
was surprised that there exists a sort of ecosystem for people who are just like sharing indicators and tooling and stuff like that in C still. But yeah, that's a bit of an aside. That was just
Yeah. I've
a
also
funny
picked up a little
observation.
bit of I picked up a little bit of Rust, but from what I hear, I don't have the prerequisite programming socks to dive deep into that. Um, I'm also right wing, which apparently is something that Rust has an opinion on. So, um, I actually this might actually be a funny story that is somewhat relevant because we've talked about before how Russians um Russian sort of like warfare, if you want to call that like information warfare, is something that they're way ahead of in certain aspects, even though it seems like just nonsensical to us, right? And that's a couple of weeks ago. Let me check. One Linux distro, I forget which one, or maybe it's just the kernel itself, had like a PR for its system D or something. I'm not sure how you say it out loud, like the system or whatever. I forget what it's it's basically the bootstrapping thing in Yeah, it's a French phrase, system D. Yeah, okay, it's naming daemons. That's it. Okay. Anyway, so this part of Linux, which is basically the core of Linux. So if you're running, I'm not going to say most distros, you're affected by system D, right? We're getting almost into Linus Torvalds territory where he's looking at your PR if you make a change to this. And someone had put in a change to systemd, which checked if it's trying to run Ladybird, which is an open source browser that's trying to build it basically from scratch, not just doing Chromium and stuff like that. If you're specifically the user David Heinemeier Hansen, who's the creator of Ruby on Rails, who has at some point, I think he's Danish, I think, and he's at some point quoted Tommy Robinson. And there was one other thing. Like, these three things were specifically targeted in systemd, and if they were detected, systemd would essentially just shut down. And this was called the anti-fascist sort of function or something of systemd, where your Linux would refuse to run if any of these things were detected. Now,
So
of course,
okay, let me count. Like, three things. There was Tommy Robinson references, the being the creator of Ruby on Rails, and the third was the browser. What's the right-wing connotation to that internet browser?
I have no idea, to be honest. I have no idea.
Ladybird,
I haven't had the time
that,
to look into it. I know about the project. I've been following a little bit when they do updates, just what they're able to do. And the final thing it did was, let me check here. Something about Hyperland. If it detected Hyperland, which is like I'm grossly simplifying stuff here, but Hyperland is like your window manager essentially, or it's the desktop environment, I guess, would be for Linux. But the point is, the user who submitted this PR, the PR was reviewed and denied, of course, because whoever is running the project is sensible, saying that my operating system probably shouldn't have an opinion on whether or not I am specifically this person, or if I'm running running Ladybird, etc., etc. The package was called Detect Fash. My point is, people did some sleuthing around on the person who, or on the GitHub account that committed this PR, and it contains a Russian military email address. So, and it has a Russian account description. It was created like 2 days before, right? So this is sort of the kind of perfect example of this kind of like Russian information warfare. It's just like, oh yeah, we're gonna make like the Linux kernel guys waste their time for like 2 days or something, right?
This is like next level stuff. If this is
if
something
this
they
is
come
true,
up with,
obviously, this is allegedly.
I'm confused, to be honest, but maybe that's the point.
It is to cause confusion and delay, as it were, right? So, yeah, that was a bit of a side tangent, but that's something that happened recently in the tech world. I'm going to bring up the Wheel of Names, and some of these are tiny stories, some of these are gigantuan stories. So we'll just spin it, and we'll see where Lady Luck takes us. Okay, we're starting off on the gender slop. I'm being a bit mean when I call it gender slop. You might disagree with me. But there was a post by Philosophy Cat, which has kind of caught my eye. So I figured we'd read it and see if she's on the money or not. I find that, while being a big account and that brings with it some measure of slop at any point. Sometimes when it comes to gender stuff, she's pretty much on the money. So this is in response to someone saying, many women will often say that they want vulnerability in a man, no matter how calmly and respectfully delivered, but treat us differently once they get it, use it against us when upset, they joke about it, or share it without our consent to friends and family. And it goes on, but I don't think we have to expand on that. That's the gist of it. So what Philosophica says here is that it's true that many women say they want a man who's, quote, in touch with his emotions, yet get the, quote, ick. Nicholas DeFar says, you shouldn't use trash like System D to begin with. This is like every time you mention anything Linux, even closely related, some guy comes out of the woodwork to tell you that whatever you're talking about is trash and you should use something else instead. I'm not saying he's wrong. He might be right for all I know. It's just that's how it is. It's true that many women say they want a man who's in touch with his emotions, yet get the ick when he expresses them. This can be bewildering for men, but the issue lies in how emotion is expressed, not the fact of feeling it. Yes, women tend to value a man who has emotional fluency and depth, someone who can articulate his inner world and empathize with hers. But they recoil when a man loses his composure, collapses emotionally, and turns to her for emotional containment. The moment she has to soothe or stabilize him, when she must step into the role of his therapist or mother, the polarity between them collapses. She no longer feels in his strength, she feels his need. And that is where the ick arises. So this is the key distinction. Emotional depth does not mean emotional dumping. A man can speak openly about his struggles while remaining self-possessed and anchored in his own center. He might say, quote, I've had a rough week and I'm working through some frustration, but I'll be fine, rather than dissolving into self-pity or seeking reassurance. He shares what's real without burdening her with it. His emotions are contained by his own form. That's what women respond to, emotional transparency grounded in composure. It signals a robust and stable inner center. It shows he can hold complexity without being consumed by it. By contrast, many men, fearing that any display of feeling will make them appear weak, end up overcorrecting by suppressing or hiding their emotions entirely. They present a stoic facade that keeps her at arm's length. While this may preserve his ego, it starves intimacy. She feels locked out of his interior world, perhaps admiring and respecting him, but ultimately feeling exiled from his soul. This lack of emotional connection. Well, hang on. Because there's another woman on this app who tells me that, because my mom didn't have an orgasm while giving birth to me, I don't have a soul. So which one is it? That's obviously not a jab against Philosophica. I understand what she's saying. This lack of emotional connection is far more painful for the woman, who, unlike the man, is not a self-sustaining principle. As the embodiment of the lunar principle, she requires reflection to feel whole, to know herself through the mirror of his awareness. When that mirror is blank, she loses the sense of being felt, and something in her begins to close. Both collapse and repression arise from the same root, disconnection from solar center. In the first, emotion floods the structure. In the second, the structure dams the flow. The true alternative, and what women are innately seeking in a man when they say they want him to be in touch with his emotions, is one in which those feelings are governed by conscious form. The man is able to remain inwardly still while emotion moves through him. He neither denies it nor is swept away by it. That stillness is what allows him to hold space for the woman's depths without being drowned by them. This is neither stoicism nor vulnerability, but a secret third thing, an inner sovereignty where emotion has been mastered by spirit rather than suppressed by force of will. She's a bit laborious, perhaps, but I think it was a pretty good point in response to the post. She has one other, I guess, word dump on masculinity and femininity. I don't know if that's going to be relevant. It's in relation to this, but I'm not sure if we need to discuss that.
You know what I like about this is that I know that she usually writes longer posts like this, and she did that before LLMs became really good. So I'm actually pretty sure she might not have
She
used an
actually writes
LLM here,
this.
and it doesn't
Yeah.
feel like this is like this kind of AI generated garbage that you get
Yeah.
from a lot of sorry to say, but a lot of accounts in this kind of right wing populist space. She's more into this kind of esoterica stuff, but some of them just like their mental capacity is like one paragraph usually, but suddenly you'll see them dump these multi-page posts, and it's all like very
Yeah.
value neutral language, very surgical. But yeah, with this stuff, she is. It actually seems quite personal, so it makes me
Yeah,
appreciate
and you
it
you can
more.
obviously tell, if
Uh,
you followed her and you've you know her inspirations and Evola and all that stuff, right?
yeah,
It shines through. It's not without voice, right?
I'm not
Uh,
sure if this is how Evolian this is, but I can sort of see it from
no,
like
it
self
draws
help.
the final part draws
Yeah.
from I forget the is it Eros and the Mysteries of Love? Is that what he calls it? The metaphysics of sex, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that might be
It draws
possible. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, this is I think she's right on the money here, and just in as a sort of short summary, if they look for a man who's vulnerable, well, they might be interested in the ability to express vulnerability, perhaps artistically. Say like you can write a song or paint a painting or something that talk about your inner world or trauma, or you can
Right.
talk about these things, or try to talk about situations that you've experienced together in a way where you kind of explore how it is emotionally for you. But if you're using your girlfriend to emotionally regulate, then that's kind of not what she's looking for, I think.
Yeah. And that's the thing where it's like you can be I think what we're getting at is that, you should be able to be open with your wife without being a simp essentially. And I don't mean it by like simping for her. I mean like a sniveling creature, right? Um there's a way of saying that, well, this isn't like if you're having a discussion. I'm thinking about like something me and my wife was discussing about just changes in our relationship and just how chaotic everyday life has become after um, baby walrus entered our lives, which of course we both enjoy, but it's a big shakeup, right? So that was driving a lot of discussion, and at some point I was like, yeah, but this isn't how I work, right? I'm just being transparent with you. I can't know the things I don't know, right? um and I feel that in that moment I'm being open with her, but I'm not being like, you're attacking me and now I'm crying and I'm feeling upset, right? I'm not relying on her. I'm just being honest.
No. And yeah, there is a subset of conversations that you can have, I think, with most. I'll be generalistic. Most females, as a man, that are not open to you as like a conversation between two men. But this is
Sure.
again not about like just bawling your eyes out or something, like being comforted like a child, but sort of like you could talk about how, like, when you're at work, you feel like you have a certain inferiority complex that comes from your relationship with your siblings or something,
Right.
or like
Yeah.
that you were neglected by your father, and you sort of see that in your boss or something. Like you could have
Mm.
a conversation about that with your wife. That's not about when you're not like crying or punching the drywall or something, but like you're just explaining that this is how you feel.
An
And it's
understanding
it's
that
so
I have
something that
gained. Yeah.
you're and they will enjoy talking about that. You could even sprinkle in like some zodiac signs or personality type magazine lingo into it, and they will like lap this up. But it's not the type of conversation you will typically have between two men. Very, very unlikely.
No.
Even like if it's two homosexuals, they will not talk to each other this way. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I think this is what they kind of look for when you want a man who's in touch with their vulnerabilities or something. I mean, are you interested in talking about like psychobabble, magazine psychology type stuff? It is just like a female interest domain, but it can be
What you have
approached.
to do, the best thing you
Yeah,
can do, like this is like a freebie, is, they say like validate their feelings, and this is like the best thing you can do is that you can tell them that, you know, there's always a reason why you have a feeling. You might not be correct, right? But there's always a reason you had the intuition, and that's you get brownie points for that.
Well, yeah, I think that works with men as well, but they will not be transparent about it.
Sure, yeah. I don't know how psychologists does this. Like, how do that would be interesting. Like, how do you work differently as a psychologist um, trying to reach a man in this way versus yeah. I don't know. Let's move on from this before it gets uncomfortable. Let's spin the wheel again. Oh, we're hitting eternal youth. Okay, so this is the big one. You're gonna have to, police me a bit here, Bloody Path, because this is a huge article. If we end up spending a lot of time here, you have to shut me down. But I read this. This is, I'm gonna uh, sort of tout technology for a moment here. I was able to, with my phone, screenshot the magazine, right? And it picks up on all the characters and letters in the article, but in the photo that I took. And then I could like run this through like a translator. And now we have an article here essentially, which was really nice. Because it was like a physical magazine, right?
Okay.
So
did you read it at
this,
like the doctors or something, or
yeah, something like that, right? So this is a Norwegian article that's been translated. I'm going to try to do, a little bit of a live translation where I feel it did a poor job. But the gist of this article is the differences between millennials, Gen Zs, and our parents and parents' generations when it comes to becoming adults. So I'm just going to launch it, and you can interrupt whenever you feel like. Everything in adult life is boring. Paying bills, doing laundry, owning things. Bahara Viken, at 31, she's basically my age, says she still doesn't feel like an adult. I don't really want to become one either. And this is kind of funny, this first sentence here. I was watching, I don't even remember what. I had something on in the background on YouTube while I was working on something. And it was something to do with like commentary on video games. I can't remember what channel it was, but it was about like the games industry. But unrelated to all that, the guy who was talking said that, I'm a millennial, so that means everything's a chore to me. And that really I could really relate to that. There's something about it where I have this feeling that, my parents and especially my grandparents just have the ability to do chores without having them feeling like chores. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can relate to this as well. So,
Maybe
but
that's just
it
me,
seems
but
it
yeah.
seems to have gotten better as I've gotten older. Surprise, surprise.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
But maybe some people are just kind of stuck in, La La Land forever.
Maybe
having
I'm
kids.
just stuck in La La Land forever. Yeah.
Having kids
Having
seems to have
babies
helped a little
has
bit,
helped.
actually.
Yeah, it helped. It helped a lot. It's not that I don't do chores. It's not that I don't appreciate the, doing the sort of the outcome of them. But I feel like specifically it's just that things that seem to be something that people of an older generation would enjoy are usually some things that I only can enjoy once they're done, right? So getting through them is the difficult part, but I guess that's true for everyone. So all right, you might think that she became an adult early on because already at age 22 she became the editor of the teen magazine Julia, Norwegian teen magazine. After that, she led NRK, which is the Norwegian broadcaster youth news editorial team, and is now perhaps known as an influencer and podcaster. Quote, I often hear from my mom, now is the time to grow up, or it's time to become an adult. When I first started my career as a journalist, my parents sometimes helped me with rent. When I bought my first home, they helped me doing the renovations. They also paid for vacations and occasionally large unexpected bills. Maybe they've helped me out a bit too much, she wonders. I do want to
Yeah,
manage. my life on my
I
own.
think so. Yeah, this is kind of the problem actually. So it's not
This is too
just
much.
the
Yeah.
millennials; it's really their parents. I think in a lot of cases, just
Yeah.
like it would have been so easy to just not do anything. You could have just done nothing. Like your kids asking you to pay for something or like to renovate. Oh, my house is dirty. Okay, fuck off. Just like clean it yourself. Do it yourself.
Well,
And there's a lot of
I want to say that it's
yeah.
almost sort of had like the opposite effect on me, where it's like I don't think I've received the amount of help that she has from this, right? But I have received support, and I told the story one other time. It's like once I first sort of moved out, I had like 1 month early on where I had to ask my dad for like $200 to be able to to buy food, and it was like a never again moment, right? Um, but of course, if they've invited me out for dinner, they would very often pay, especially when I was a student. Um, but other than that, it's sort of made me want to do things on my own, to the point where now, if I'm like doing renovations, my dad would want to join, like to like say we're like building a deck or something. He would love to join, but I have this like mental blocker of like, no, I need to do this myself, right?
Well,
So
it sounds healthy actually.
no, well, to a certain extent, but at other points, it's like, well, I could, this is something we could do together, right? As father and son, it would be nice. So I'm trying to sort of find the balance here of like, I feel like I need to do some things myself, but also sort of see the value in not necessarily asking for help, but at least appreciating that people want to be a part of things, right? All right. It's said that it's typically Norwegian to be independent, and we've actually talked about this before. This was the conclusion in Haralea's TV series from 2020. This is Norway. We move out from our parents' home earlier than any other country. If things get tight, the welfare state, not our parental help, is what saves us. This is beginning to change. He called it the freedom machine. It's the sort of state apparatus that earlier than other places separates young adults from their parents, not necessarily morally or physically, but in terms of like economics and monetary matters. Teachers in Norwegian schools say that they are now fed up with quote unquote demanding parents, mothers and fathers who barge in arguing about the grades of children who are legally adults and asking the teacher to consider that their child slept badly last night, according to newspaper articles. Could you imagine like 19 and your mom has to be like, oh yeah, but my boo slept badly. That's why she did bad on the exam. Could you imagine as a parent, like at what point do you sort of catch yourself in the act of like, what am I even saying, right?
I don't know why, but this is just. I mean, I see my own parents in this. There's just like so many people in this generation. I don't understand where it comes from. I look at like boomers who are like this, who are I just even like Gen X parents who are like that. I try to
Yeah.
understand like why would you embarrass yourself like this? Like where does this stuff come from that you think that we talked about the validation stuff that you're trying to ask institutions to validate your emotions and you don't think this is embarrassing on
Sure.
any level that
Yeah.
they should just of course you had a bad night of sleep, of course we're going to do the whole thing again for you or something, but yeah, it's not that uncommon actually.
It's scary, yeah. In 2017, 34% of Norwegians aged 18 to 29 received, quote, regular financial help from their parents. Last year's numbers from cell phone companies, according to Aftenposten, showed that, quote, many young people have their phone subscriptions sponsored by their parents well into the late 20s. Actually, I'm going to come clean here and say that I think, not my phone, I think it's the local newspaper or something, which my dad pays for, because we're on this like grandfathered in subscription where if he he's paying for the entire family, but if we broke up the account and he had to pay for his and I had to pay for mine, it would be more than what we're paying now. So it just makes sense to keep doing it. We'll see how long that lasts, obviously. I think that's one place where I'm getting financial help, but I wouldn't, if I had to make do without the local newspaper subscription on the web, I'd be fine, right? I'd just not read it. It's not like I need this to survive.
Well, is it any good?
It's decent, and I could pay for it on my own if I wanted to, right? It's not like I need the money. So, and I pay for my own phone bills, pay for everything else. I remembered reading this right now that actually there's one subscription which my dad pays. But that was, again, it made financial sense to keep it. I'm not sure if it still does, to be honest. I haven't thought about that in a long time. Neither has he, apparently, because obviously he probably had told me if he was going to kick me off his newspaper subscription. All right, and with skyrocketing house prices, 1 in 4 home buyers gets help from home. 2 out of 3 in Oslo. Obviously, because the prices in Oslo are insane, but that's their own sort of it's their own sort of death spiral that's going on with this. We marry later, we have children later. Does something we could call self-sufficiency even exist in 2025? Language remembers what we have forgotten, that being an adult once meant that you had finished growing. According to the Norwegian Academic Dictionary, the word eventually took on a more figurative meaning, reaching an age where you're no longer a child, being legally responsible, mature. One can be, quote, well into adulthood, quote, too grown up for that clothing style, or, quote, not quite mature enough to handle something. The etymology reveals a bit of an irony. Adult literally means, quote, someone who has grown. Everything else we load onto that word is culture. In the 50s and 60s, youths emerged as their own life phase, according to sociologist Willie Pedersen. He's supported by Keith Hayward, professor of criminology at the University of Copenhagen. Quote, there was an innocent celebration of youth. The reason was that advertising agencies and companies realized that the teenage market was enormous, says Hayward, author of Infantilized, How Our Culture Killed Adulthood. In the 60s, culture was changing. Radical politics, transformative ideologies, the sexual revolution, and further protests. Quote, subcultures, long hair, rock, and cannabis became symbols of freedom, a break with the parent generation who had lived through the war. The slogan was make love, not war, and for the first time, one could do that without becoming pregnant, according to Pedersen. Equally radical was the revolution happening inside advertising agencies, according to Hayward. Everything driving social change in the 60s, freedom, alternative lifestyles, personal expression, and self realization, could be used to sell people even more things. Yet the boundaries of adulthood were still not erased. Quote, for baby boomers and partially millennials, adult life was clearly defined. Work, relationship, children. These were markers of maturity. Today, for Gen Z entering adulthood, these markers are much weaker. Education lasts longer. I think it means education takes longer, especially for women. And they just generally take longer sort of paths, I guess. And the establishment phase is pushed further into the future. Relationship forms are becoming more fluid. Having a boyfriend or girlfriend is no longer a clear boundary. People are talking to someone or seeing someone. Even sex does not mark the transition into adulthood. The age of sexual debut is increasing, while the digital sphere has become the arena for exploring identity and relationships. Peterson believes that all of this points to a deeper cultural shift. It is difficult to become an adult as an isolated I or me. Previously, you would step into a community, family, work, relationships, but today many seek validation alone on the digital platforms. The adult role has become more diffuse, more lonely. It's interesting trying to think about it's this idea who Who said that? Who wrote about deterritorialization? It's a guy.
That Giles
Deleuze.
Deleuze,
It's
yeah.
Deleuze, yeah. Gilles Deleuze, is that his name? Something like that. About how the sort of like advertising agencies and the industry sort of defined youth as a category of life that probably didn't exist before. If it did, or even if it did, it was something sort of quote unquote sacred, which is where the territorialization comes in, and then sort of sells it back to you, I guess. But it seems that in that sense, it hasn't been able to sell back adulthood, like to redefine what sort of re-territorializing adulthood means, I guess, uh, in the process, which leaves everyone sort of just faffing about, trying to understand what they want to do.
Yeah, I think the uncertainty and kind of the what do you call it, like the fluidity of not just identity but the labor market and institutions, that doesn't help. But and if you are just a kind of single person who don't have to take big steps to design your life, then of course adulthood will be postponed. I feel like, I don't know, for me it's sort of the transition to adulthood has involved kind of lifestyle design, in a sense. That sounds super gay, and it doesn't. I'm not talking about like fashion or something. I'm talking about like, if I'm walking through my neighborhood now, I'll be thinking about stuff like how the cars are parked in the road
Right.
while their garages are being used for storage space, for example,
Uh-huh.
which means that there's less space to walk, which means the kids can't play there.
Yeah.
So again, like, and then like my next thought is that, okay, how could I like talk to like the local government to force these people to put their cars back into their garage? Like, but I mean, if I was just a single man or something, I would never think about anything
Consider it.
like this,
Yeah.
right? It would just be completely, who gives a fuck if they have their cars parked like wherever. I think anybody should park wherever they want to or something. But now it's like very much about this, well, I want to be able to have a life where I can, maybe walk to the daycare or something, or
Yeah,
at
you
least take
start
the
thinking about
bicycle.
stuff outside yourself, but not necessarily just like considering others. You're thinking about like the idea of community, right?
Yeah, let's say, yeah, I just like it would be able to maybe walk around in the local community or use a bicycle or have kids moving around in the street or
Yeah.
something. And if they use it that way, if like it's like two old people who have 5 muscle cars standing in the street, and that's not great. So this is the sort of thing that I'm like, I spend more time thinking
The
about that
eternal
stuff. And
boomer rears its head again. Yeah.
well, yeah, it's not just them, but it's sort of, I have less tolerance for these. I don't know what you want to call them, but defiant personas are sort of less rule based people,
Sure.
and more of this kind of like preference for, if I move again, I'll try to move into some kind of, I don't know what the proper English term is, but when you have like row houses or city blocks or something, they're typically owned by some controlling body that's going to enforce uniform rules, for example. So
Yeah. Yeah.
every townhouse is going to have the same color. The renovations is done collectively. So every house is equally renovated. There's not like one nice looking house and another house that is just like a dump standing next to it. Because this is the kind of stuff that is just, yeah, I spend a lot of time now thinking about this, like driving through places where you see some places they have some collective policy on renovation, on design and stuff. In other places it's just like, I'm just going to do whatever I like, and so you get houses from completely different time periods that don't match stylistically, and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I feel like that's kind of an adult. Maybe it isn't. At least I don't feel like this is something kids walk around thinking about a lot.
No, I've thought about that as well because I walked past a neighboring house a couple of 100 meters away, right? Who'd recently done renovations, and they've changed all of the sort of the boards on their house to be of a completely different style to everyone else. And I thought to myself, like, that's kind of weird that the local government even allowed that, because now they don't match our houses, right? There's sort of and it's a very specific, not a very specific style, but it's it's part of the region that a lot of the houses look a certain way, right? Um, and if people are starting to sort of just randomly change that into something more cookie cutter, then you sort of lose the identity.
Yeah, I mean the cat.
Yeah,
yeah, of
letting
course.
Karen age away indoors. Yeah,
I don't know what you want to say. I mean, even if you look at it from a libertarian perspective, you could still have these sort of collectives that you buy into, or these communities with contracts that
yeah,
you can't live here unless you want to be a part of this commune. So a lot of people want that, right? I mean, they're probably going to feel safer in like some kind of gated community that enforces a minimum standard instead of everybody just does whatever they want on their property, and if you have a dispute, take it to court, settle it with a
right, yeah.
gun. Yeah.
Well, I think that's what you find if you talk to a lot of libertarians on the right. Essentially, is that they would believe that if I'm trying to steel man what something like radical liberation would say, is that these types of things would naturally form in a libertarian system, right? That this is more a natural
I don't
way
see
of.
why they wouldn't, if everything is privatized, then the demand, I think, would just be so great from certain segments of people to live in these type of communes anyway. So whether it's government sanctioned or not, there would be
Yeah,
the communes, they would have like a shared security policy, logistics policy, and so on, because that's just easier. And there's an
yeah, it's
economy
just
of
time
scale.
saving, right?
It's
Yeah,
time saving, and there's also an economy of scale involved with that. So, which is economically beneficial. But a lot of the people who are libertarian, who think of themselves like that, have a kind of psychology that is really not. It's not like that at all. It's really the other type
it's
that
the
I'm
joke.
talking about, where
It's the joke my mate always used to say, which is the like libertarian who doesn't use turn signals because he doesn't want to. It's his business where he's going, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. And just this guy, whether it's like this, like it ties into the NIMBY YIMBY issue
Yeah, yeah,
again, where I don't really like. I feel like a lot of the impulse behind, this, it's not the same as conservative ideology or libertarian ideology, but like the sentiment behind like the libertarian or conservative voter is a lot of that. I don't want to use the turn signal, like "fuck you, nanny state" or something. This kind of like borderline antisocial. You're not going to tell me what to do if I want to like wear diapers and just shit my pants in public, or something like that. That should be my prerogative, and I lost patience with that stuff. And in my view, this is like part of growing up, to be honest, even though you could
you
probably find
this photo
people
with
who,
me on Telegram a couple of weeks back about like some someone trying to build something in my backyard. It was from some kind of protest. Do you remember that?
yeah, I do. Yeah, of course. I don't
Do
remember exactly
you remember
when I
what it was
posted it,
about?
but it was in like a local newspaper or something where they were like protesting some
I just
yeah,
thought
building
this
entity.
guy's face was extremely funny. It reminded me of those like memes when it's like when some yimby says, comes around talking about building stuff, and you have to hit him with the NIMBY stare,
Yeah,
right?
this is like a
That's
school merger or something. Like this is
that's
they're
this
talking
guy.
about yeah,
He's
when
hitting you with the NIMBY stare.
do you think this guy has like ever protested anything else? He believes in anything else? It's just like, oh well, oh shit, they're gonna like change the location of my school, my kid's school. Oh, better bring out the tiki torches and like the
Yeah.
pitchforks for this particular thing. So
All right, let's let's keep going into the youth culture stuff. Youth culture is the strongest force, according to Professor Keith Hayward. Quote: "The whole of life has become one big damn playpen. All of life has become one big damn playpen." He says in a video call from his home, where a stylish bar cart full of gin bottles sits behind him, based and gin pill, just like me. His book argues that childishness permeates Western society and prevents us from growing up. The cultural element, 40-year-olds collecting Star Wars figures, 35-year-olds talking about adulting, affects us, Hayward believes. It makes us less independent, less able to handle adversity. Yeah, I mean, I could just scroll Twitter and tell you the same thing. That's half of my right-wing feed is that, right? So you're about like 10 years too late to this point, honestly. Looking at politics, you'll immediately see the damaging consequences of a childish culture, according to Hayward. Juvenile mudslinging, rude outbursts on social media, and politicians who flirt with the young, meaning flirting with like the young voter base through entertaining TikTok stunts. Now, this one I agree with, and it's partially in a lot of the critiques that we have levied against sort of the online politics stuff. Quote, I don't actually think young people want to be talked down to the way they are today. Young people are like everyone else. They want a secure future, a job, and a home. I think they're serious people with serious concerns, and they want to be spoken to properly.
Well, that's the interesting part because I mean, demographically, there's as a percentage, there's less young people, right? Because of these inverted population pyramids. So when they talk about young people that they're appealing to, it's like the 35-year-olds who want to see the Sonnenrad TikToks. So that's kind of the sad part here is that with what you think is like, oh, they're appealing to the youth. Well, the youth is like captive dreamer or something. That's the sensitive young men.
I think
that
Captain
they're
Rimmer
trying to
is
win
just
over.
as old as I am, isn't he?
Well, yeah,
Probably,
but
yeah.
I guess if you want to talk about like
We
delayed
are the youth.
adulthood, then yeah.
Sure, fair enough. Before you were assigned the role of an adult very early, says the artist John Rennes 23 from the underground rap group, which it's the rap group is literally called Underground, which he started at age 14. But I never felt that pressure. If Independence had a soundtrack in Norway, it might be Trond Viggo Torgerson's 1981 classic, Think for Yourself, essentially. Last year, the song was remade by Rennes and his group. Quote, when no one expected it, we went to work. When no one could imagine it, we thought for ourselves, they rap. I chose my career early, but that's a responsibility I took on myself, not an external pressure to grow up, he says. Birger Emanuelson, who last year published a book Before They Disappear, an attempt to understand what children are, believes this responsibility is what separates children from adults. Quote, a child can expect that the community will help them. Adults are expected to take responsibility not just for themselves but for the collective. And this echoes a bit what you were saying, that you're thinking more about the collective, right? Which I guess would be a sign of adulthood, right?
Yeah, at least I think so.
My right-wing feed, Nietzsche's last man on the right. Historically, he says, the line between children and adults has always been about work and responsibility. The children play, the adults work, protect, and care for others. One technically doesn't need to become an adult in Norway today. You can live like a child from age 13 to the grave, but then you would miss the meaning that lies in contributing and being something for someone else. Again, yes. Adulting. Being an adult is not primarily about time or age, but about stepping into a role. According to psychologist and father of three, Peter Kjøs, it is being able to take care of yourself and something beyond yourself. It is a shift from being a receiver to someone who gives. Adult life can be read as symbolic actions, small milestones that he would call adulting. The first time you buy a laundry detergent, when your money is no longer your own pocket money, but what you live on. His own father moved out at 15 to earn a living. Now people live at home for a long time and they don't start families until their 30s. We don't want to become adults because it is boring, says author Nina Lykke at 60. This fall, she published her sixth book, Where Are the Adults? A novel exploring childish, immature adults. She's thought about this topic for decades. Everything has to be light, easy, over-explained. No one should be upset. Adults are now being treated like children themselves. Quote, the fact that we even talk about adulting or having children at 30 is considered early is frankly insane, she says. Not that she idealizes the past when 14-year-olds held steady jobs and 20-year-olds supported families. That's not ideal, but before people longed to have something of their own, to be adults. It's hard to know. I can't see inside the mind of the youths. So I do think it's still true that a lot of the kids kind of just want this, right? But it's just like what does that even mean in 2025, right?
Yeah,
How do
what
you
do you?
get
They
there?
want to be adults, or they want to be forever children?
No, they want to have something of their own, some idea of identity that lets them be adults, right? But the
Yeah,
path there is very, very muddled compared to
yeah. I,
like
I
50
think
years
it
ago.
is difficult to settle down, and it's really a problem of choices in lifestyles in general. I don't know, like they talk about this sort of like childishness culture and that kind of the Star Wars figurines. Like my mind just kind of goes back to sitcoms, actually,
Yeah.
and like stuff like Seinfeld, which is at least for me a sort of when you talk about like adult children,
Yeah.
that's actually the first thing that I think about, and sort of like the mainstreaming of the kind of adult child
You can
lifestyle.
remain sort of like an ironic 20-something socialite forever, I guess.
Yeah, that's kind of the idea is that you live in an apartment in the big city and you just kind of you hang around and you just hang around with friends, so you talk about your hobbies, so you don't really commit to anything. uh, Everything is sort of light, has to stay light and non-committal and non-serious, and that is your life essentially. You're able to sustain yourself on that if you could
That's one
make
of
an
the
okay
very
salary.
first Seinfeld episodes, I believe, the baby, I think it's called, where Seinfeld spends a lot of the episode complaining that his extended family, someone in his extended family has had a baby, and everyone is nagging him that he has to see the baby. Of course, in a very exaggerated Jewish accent that is supposed to sort of grate on you, right? The New York Jewish accent, and he doesn't understand why he needs to see the baby because it's just like a small little meat meat potato, right? Um, but of course, everyone who's older than him are sort of they want him to be part of the family. Essentially, that's it, right?
Yeah, no,
But
I think that's
that, of course,
perfectly
doesn't
put.
get presented through Seinfeld. But obviously, there's a reading of that in which Seinfeld is the weirdo, right? He's not
Yeah,
cool. He's
exactly,
actually like an
and
outsider.
you also sort of realize that like it started airing in the 80s, and like this was not a normal lifestyle to have back then. It wasn't as mainstream as it is now, so it was very much at the front
Yeah, yeah,
of what the future was going to be. Like the show is great. It's just I didn't think about it until last time I rewatched some episodes that it was sort of a shift there into this sort of eternal adult child that you're seeing with this show, and
yeah.
how that's essentially what sitcom characters are, these sort of people who never grow up.
Yeah, I think that's why a lot of the think about like a lot of the sitcoms that were like that, are known. All of them are known for having horrible endings, right? Because it's trying to make the characters grow up, and it just fails.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that if the character grows up, you don't have a show. That's kind of the thing. It's like
Yeah,
if you become an adult, then you don't have a plot for these shows. Like it's sort of relying on the characters never learning anything. You have to be able to sort of repeat the same mistakes over and over again, or just keep getting into this sort of pedantic fights over like why should I go see my cousin's baby or something, like these really petty things that this is kind of a child's or sort of
I mean
young
that
adult
is
mentality, right?
the essence of Seinfeld. Like I understand, it's a show about nothing. That's the meme. I get it. It's just that looking back on it, it's yeah, it rings a bit hollow, right?
I mean, it's still super funny and has like a great
It
great
is, yeah,
presentation, great tempo. You can watch it. You don't have to watch it sequentially. You can just sort of pick
yeah,
and
yeah,
choose episodes. It's not too heavy or anything,
of
but
course,
it still has like there's a like an arc there or something. What do you call, like a zeitgeist thing that's going on in the
yeah, yeah,
background.
yeah.
But yeah, now we've approached like 1 hour. I don't know if we if we're going to do any
should.
more of the article, or if we're going to try to get some more wheel items before we round out.
We can push this a little bit more, and then we'll yeah. Um, let's see here. Her book also deals with parenthood, parents who fail to set boundaries for toddlers. If adults are just slaves to their children, it's no wonder people don't want to become parents. This is not a good place to be. Like Pedersen Hayward, she points back to the 60s when the youth worship began. But youth, quote, youths are unfinished. We shouldn't put them on a pedestal and think they know how life works. That is a betrayal. Well, I mean, we literally kind of did that with Greta Thunberg, right? And now all the right wingers are doing it because she's now targeted Israel, right? So she believes the public conversation about boundaryless children and immature adults may lead to change, but this will take time. Quote, I don't know what it will look like. We will never reach a utopia, but I hope that we have a shift towards holding people responsible and stop this endless servility from adults towards the youth. Which is interesting because it's like we have at the same time an incredible, as you're saying, servility from adults towards the youth, but also approaching a gerontocracy at the same time. So yeah, we're we're entering interesting times, as it were.
Yeah, lot of movements and things that don't really make sense. Especially, you can like pick out one of these and make the case that it's like, yeah, we're living in like a youth worship culture, but in another way, we're living in a geriatric, elder worship culture. And you could pick out data points that support both of these. And kind of miss the big, and kind of miss the big picture. It's like, yeah, kind of true, but also not.
Yeah, exactly. I remember childhood as being kicked out the door and coming home from dinner. No one knew where we were. No one watched us. According to old Martin Ela, 47 years old, he's a TV producer and author of the memoir When He-Man Came to Norway, a story of growing up in the 80s, which is inspired in the broadcasting series Our Best Years. The book describes blah, blah, blah. Today's parenting ideal is intensive parenting. It says parents monitor their children's development in greater detail and organize their free time more. One afternoon in 2019, shortly before the pandemic, Lena Marie Warholm showed up at her child's school. The PTA had called a meeting. The agenda was a traditional middle school trip to Poland, which was to be financed by selling toilet paper in the local community. Ideas for boosting sales were many. A Facebook post, calling the kids' grandparents, calling aunts and uncles, maybe talking to colleagues who wanted to fill their garage with toilet paper. Warholm, a psychologist, author, and a columnist in Aftenposten specializing in parenting, raised her hand and said, "Excuse me, but shouldn't this be the teenager's responsibility?" Her question was met with an uncomfortable silence until a quick-thinking PTA member changed the subject. Quote, I see this in therapy and in life. Young people never get the opportunity to become independent, and at the same time, parents who are frustrated can't stop themselves from helping. Parents who feel their kids place high demands and that they must help them far into adulthood, it becomes as if they never grow up. And this is kind of interesting because a couple of weeks ago, it makes me think about a couple of weeks ago on the debate show was the topic was talking about how hard it is for young people to enter the workforce these days. And to be fair, it is compared to how it was even 10 years ago if you're fresh out of college. But the sort of great tragedy for a lot of people is that they can spend a lot of time going to college, getting a degree, and you're 28 years old and you've basically never worked a day in your life, but you've done everything right according to everyone around you, right? You've done everything you ought to do in the way you ought to do it. And you end up not having a job, feeling shit about yourself because you have to send 1,000 applications into some AI hellhole, right? Because you decided to study history or something.
Yeah, no, it's very well put. And it's so difficult to resist. I mean, say like you have an abusive parent, you have like this instinct to maybe want to escape, or you have a parent who does too little for you. You can sort of lament that. you can gnash your teeth and like shake your fist at them, or like you should have provided more for me. But you have like this, excuse me, these overprotective parents who just can't help themselves but help all the time. Like they do the communal stuff for you, they do all the prep, all the soft skills that you're supposed to build. They've just covered that out of
Yeah,
the goodness of
exactly.
their heart. It's really hard to first to see that that's happening, and after you recognize that that's happening, you make a
How do
conscious
you
effort to
rectify it? Yeah.
push them away, or maybe just like, okay, bring the stuff up. And if you bring it up, then they continue doing it, and then you have to take another step to create boundaries for people who are essentially trying to make your life easier. This is like Herculean. Like it demands so much from a person in that position that the overprotective parents win every time. I feel like you really need to have like a special kind of like disagreeable personality to push away like this kind of servant parent archetype. So
Yeah.
many people fall into that hole, and they just kind of miss out on a lot of the skills that they should have developed because their parents do everything for them.
Hela believes the 1994 school reform contributed to this development. Grades in middle school became more important for high school placement, competition increased, and parents became more involved. Children then received less responsibility, while adults participate in children's activities. Sitting on the floor to play with a 3-year-old, organizing, driving, coaching a 9-year-old's football team. Quote, they moved towards the children. My dad never played with me. Adults were more like Albert Åberg's dad, was a Swedish cartoon character, smoking a pipe, watching the news, eating dinner at 5. I think, that might be an unpopular opinion in these circles, but I think there has to be a middle ground between like not talking to your kids and and doing everything for them. Like you can still be interested in their lives, right?
Yeah, but maybe not be their chauffeur and their butler,
Yeah,
and the
exactly.
cook at the same time. Yeah.
The ideal in the 1980s for a dad in his 30s was to be distinctly adult. The difference between youth and adulthood was clear. The young are idealized today. We care enormously about what they think and say. Quote, it is not only parents who struggle to let go, the whole society are living through youth, wrote commentator Lena Lindgren in Morgenbladet. Adults also seem to develop a kind of agelessness. Adult women and men buy Chinese plush toys, so-called labubus, that they fasten to their bags. The labubu maker Pop Mart is on track to sell $1 billion worth of toys this year, according to Business Insider. Quote, parents today are ahead of things. They're cool. You can talk to them about anything. They want to show a huge understanding for youth life. This might be a bit of a like Gen X thing. Gen X has this like complex of always like they're still the cool guys. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think so.
On the other hand, she also sees a trend among young adults. Even the least independent are marked by heavy seriousness. When I started studying 25 years ago, we felt the world was wide open. Nothing was quite urgent, and we could drift through different courses. We were very young in our early 20s. That's a very good way of putting it. Even though many young people get parental help, they're also marked by worries. They plan their like graduation celebration for high school already in middle school. They have high expectations for who and what they should become. Warholm says, quote, even their social lives have become arenas that have to succeed in. It's not a place for silliness and fun, but it's a thing to take seriously. I think a lot of adults, a lot of parents wish they could help more because it's damn hard to establish yourself without any help, says Amrit Kaur. Why is this woman being... This is the woman who used to be the leader. Yeah, she was the leader of Red Youth until she made fun of Charlie Kirk's death, and she was like deplatformed, or she was removed from the party. I'm not sure why they talked to her, but yeah. Everyone in the paper has spoken with psychologists, musicians, youth politicians, children, and parents. They all say the same thing. The housing market is hanging like a stormy cloud over every analysis they do, forming the backdrop for both seriousness and immaturity. Well, in Oslo especially. At the start of the year, Norway saw yet another strong increase in housing prices, especially in small apartments. In Oslo, almost 70% of young buyers received parental help in 2023. Owning a home, the biggest adult milestone, has become nearly impossible without help. This creates a divide. Some of my friends are buying a home, some already own, but they all get help from family, says Kara. Kara stepped down from leadership after posting a TikTok video joking about the killing of Charlie Kirk, blah, blah, blah. She grew up, quote, in the hood in Drummond. Oh, yeah, that's actually the hood, though. So, checks out. She can't just borrow money from her mom. That's the case for her. So I guess the idea is that maybe this is turning into like a class divide. Like, do you have the ability to have your parents help you? That might become a thing. But I think we've covered enough from this. It's an interesting article. Yeah, thing from Marble. Yeah, you saw the magazine. All right, so that was that, roughly speaking. I found it very interesting to read when I read it, and I figured we could have some good sort of like discussions from it, and I think we did. So, mission
That was
success.
very good. It is a recurring topic, but it doesn't go away, right? It affects everything. So,
and as you said, it's very hard to. You can't just look at one thing at a time, but it's also very difficult to look at multiple things at the same time. So you sort of have to like return to some of the topics multiple times and see if you've expanded your view, right?
yeah, I think in the interest of time here, we might just
I'm just gonna pick,
cheat on the wheel here and do the AI grandma because that's in the episode title.
We'll do AI
Right.
grandma.
We should at least dedicate more than 2 minutes to that.
I agree. We'll do AI grandma. I hope I don't get any sort of like copyright strike from this. We'll try to
He's getting bigger. See?
Oh, honey, that's wonderful.
Kicking like crazy.
He's listening. Put your hand on your tummy and hum to him. You used to love that.
It feels like he's dancing in there.
Oh, honey.
Mom, would you tell Charlie that bedtime story you always used to tell me?
Once upon a time, there was a baby unicorn who didn't know he knew how to fly. This baby unicorn was like your mom because she didn't know that she knew how to fly.
This is like, I understand, I guess, the impetus of like, oh, I wish, mom was here or grandma was here. But if she's not, then, you could just read your kid a bedtime story. They will enjoy the time with you more than like talking to AI grandma, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think you're doing this for yourself more than for the kids.
Yeah.
Of course, it's going to be like, I mean, I noticed that young kids are actually quite quick to understand things. So, I mean, I was thinking about how you'd explain, what's going on with grandma.
Yeah.
Like, you can never visit this person because she doesn't have an address.
Yeah.
But like trying to explain like why exactly we're doing this. Maybe it's like normalized when these kids are older, and this is a real product, right? It's not just a proof of concept video or something.
It seems like it, yeah.
But she knew how to do all kinds of fabulous things.
Hi, Grandma.
Hey, Charlie. How was school today?
It was really fun. I made this crazy shot in basketball.
I don't really care that much about basketball. What about?
Shut that.
Okay.
Pretty good. Listen to your bullshit, kiddo.
She's beating ChatGPT right now. Grandma GPT actually just like basketball. Yeah.
Feed me some salon articles, kiddo.
The crush.
Stop, Grandma. Stop talking.
Just tell me one thing.
Look who's gonna be a great grandmother.
Oh, Charlie! Oh, congratulations.
She says that he's been kicking a lot, though. Like, a little too much.
Tell her to put her hand on her tummy and hum to him. You loved that.
I mean, at this point, wouldn't you have your mom? Like, if we're
yeah, that's a really good question. There's some failure that's happened there. It's like the mother's not doing it. But yeah, it's pretty good if they're.
What's that called? Like the idea that like it's just us and like the blue whales or whatever that do menopause is because like we're social animals, and that's like a social technology where you enforce wisdom across generations by making women into grandmas, right? But now you can just have one grandma forever.
You would have loved this moment.
You can call anytime.
But maybe you should make his mom into an AI then.
Or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
3 minutes. You need my best side. I can play the piano.
Actually, so talented.
I am. I'm your mother after all.
Keep going.
Why are you doing this? I'm going to turn you into an AI when you're gone.
Just stand still, please. I'm just gonna get a few photos. Thanks. You can die now. I think we got you uploaded, Grandma. You're in the cloud. I found it interesting that he said you would have loved this moment because he apparently he never knew his grandma.
He never knew his grandma. Yeah.
At some point,
he knows AI grandma.
I don't know, like people just have different personalities, different levels of disagreeability. But if it was me, I would have just said like, "This is bullshit." Actually, like, why are you bringing this in? I would just ask my mother if she's like not mentally healthy. If she keeps like bringing in this AI avatar of her mother constantly, like walking around with the urn. There's something just kind of wrong about this. Honestly, like if you're 10 years old, you're going to talk to your AI grandma on the phone. Don't you have any friends? But yeah, okay. I mean, but at least the music was nice, so I get the sentimentality of it.
I understand sort of the human drive for this, right? The idea that you want to, go into the shaman's cave and do mushrooms or whatever to commune with your grandma, but I mean, there's also a reason why you don't do that, right? So yeah, this sounds like it's going to be a bad time, but it seems like everyone has, universally sort of lambasted this. So I doubt it's gonna.
It might. I mean, yeah, we're in the potential AI bubble here. They're looking at any avenue to how can you make money from generative AI, right? And this is one of the ideas. I don't know about the economy of scale of this concept, but I mean, I think they'll just try anything to see if they can make generative AI make money before the bubble bursts.
Imagine being forced my borderline mother. No, sorry, that's not it. After the collapse, we can torture boomer avatars in their hotel. It's like spin up grandma and be like, "Hey, grandma, I sold your house for under market value," and then like turn her off and then turn her on again and do it all over. Yeah, no, that sounds like a
look, Mama, look, Grandma, Israel's being destroyed. This is like, yeah.
Look, everyone hates Israel now.
Oh no, this is everybody hates Israel. We got
no. Oh god,
this is perfect. It's gonna be I have no mouth and I must scream, but you have like your boomer parents inside of these torture cages.
Yeah, it sounds horrible. Oh, we have some other slop, but honestly, I don't really want to talk about the pedophile thing, and the other stuff is just funny, random stuff. So I think we're actually just going to round off the show.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
And isn't really going to add anything to this. Yeah, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll hopefully be back next week. Anything you want to say before we leave?
No, nothing. Thanks for showing up, and yeah, see you next week.
Have a good rest of your evening. Have a good rest of your day if you're in the US, and a good weekend. And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
No.